No, that's impossible. Where did you get that necklace?
Excuse me, sir. Here's your water.
Sir.
Sir, is everything all right? Why are you looking at my necklace? Because...
I've seen it before.
The billionaire froze the moment he saw the necklace. It was just a small silver pendant hanging around the waitress's neck. But the second he saw it, the color drained from his face. Because he had seen that necklace once before. 20 years ago. On the night his mother disappeared. He stared at the young woman standing in front of him and whispered, "Where did you get that?" She touched the necklace nervously. "My mother gave it to me." The billionaire took one step closer. "What's your mother's name?" The waitress hesitated. Then she said a name that made the most powerful man in the city realize his entire life had been built on a lie. Before we uncover what that necklace really means, subscribe to Billionaire Empire Folktales and turn on notifications, because this story is about to take a shocking turn. Her name was Amelia Carter. At 24 years old, Amelia worked 6 days a week at an expensive restaurant in downtown London. The restaurant was the kind of place where one dinner could cost more than her monthly rent. Politicians came there. Celebrities came there. And billionaires came there. But Amelia never cared who sat at the tables. To her, every customer was simply another person who needed food, coffee, or a quiet place to eat. She had learned long ago not to judge people by their clothes. Because Amelia knew something most wealthy people had forgotten. Money could buy almost anything. Except peace. Every morning, she took 2 buses to work. Every evening, she returned to a tiny apartment where she lived alone. Her father had died when she was young. And her mother had passed away only 3 months earlier. The only thing her mother had left her was an old photograph, a handwritten letter, and a strange silver necklace. Amelia had worn the necklace every day since the funeral. She had no idea why her mother had always told her, "Never take this necklace off." Amelia had asked why. Her mother had only smiled. "Someday, you'll understand." Amelia never imagined that they would arrive in the middle of a busy restaurant. His name was Alexander Blackwood. At 38, Alexander was one of the wealthiest businessmen in Britain. His company owned luxury hotels, property developments, technology firms, and private investments across Europe and America. The newspapers called him ruthless. His competitors called him dangerous. And women called him impossible to forget. But behind the expensive suits and cold expression was a man carrying a secret. Alexander had lost his mother when he was 18. She disappeared without a trace. Nobody was ever found. No goodbye. No explanation. One night, she simply vanished. His father had always refused to talk about it. Whenever Alexander asked what happened, his father would say the same thing. "Your mother abandoned us." Alexander had believed him. Until that afternoon. Alexander entered the restaurant with 2 business partners. He barely noticed the staff. He was discussing a multi-million-dollar property deal when Amelia approached their table. "Good afternoon, gentlemen. May I take your order?" Alexander looked up. Their eyes met for only a second. Nothing happened. Until Amelia leaned forward to place a glass of water on the table. And the necklace slipped out from beneath her uniform. Alexander stopped breathing. The conversation around him seemed to disappear. His eyes locked onto the pendant. A tiny silver bird. With a blue stone in the center. He knew that necklace. He had touched it as a child. His mother used to wear it every day. Alexander stood so suddenly that his chair nearly fell backward. Amelia looked startled. "Sir." Alexander pointed toward her necklace. "Where did you get that?" Amelia instinctively covered the pendant with her hand. "This?" "Yes. My mother gave it to me." Alexander's voice became quieter. "What was your mother's name?" Amelia frowned. "Why?" "Please." Something about his expression made her uncomfortable. My mother's name was Eleanor Carter. Alexander went completely still. Eleanor. That name was impossible. His mother had been Eleanor Blackwood. Or at least, that's what he had been told. He stared at Amelia. What did your mother look like? Amelia slowly described her. Blonde hair. Green eyes. A small scar above her left eyebrow. Alexander's heart began pounding. His mother had the exact same scar. He pulled his phone from his pocket. Do you have a photograph of her? Amelia hesitated. Then she reached into her purse. She pulled out an old photograph. Alexander took it. And the world seemed to stop. It was his mother. Standing beside a young man Alexander had never seen before. And in Eleanor's arms was a little baby girl. Alexander looked at Amelia. His voice barely escaped his throat. Who is the baby? Amelia answered softly. Me. Alexander couldn't speak. For 20 years, he had believed his mother had abandoned him. But suddenly, another possibility appeared. What if she hadn't? What if someone had taken her away? He looked again at the photograph. On the back was handwriting. Amelia's mother had written. If anything happens to me, find the Blackwood family. They deserve to know the truth. Alexander's hands began shaking. Where did you get this? It was in my mother's belongings. Did she ever tell you about the Blackwoods? Amelia shook her head. She always told me there were things I wasn't old enough to understand. Alexander looked at her necklace again. Did she tell you where this came from? Amelia nodded. She said it belonged to someone very important. Who? My grandmother. Alexander's eyes widened. Your grandmother? Amelia nodded. She said her name was Eleanor. Alexander stepped backward. His mother. His missing mother. The woman he had spent 20 years believing had abandoned him. Could Amelia actually be his sister? Alexander left the restaurant with Amelia that evening. He took her to his private office. There, he opened an old box that had belonged to his mother. Inside was a photograph. Alexander placed it beside Amelia's photograph. The two pictures showed the same woman. Eleanor. But there was something else. In Alexander's photograph, Eleanor was wearing the same silver necklace. The pendant had been split into two pieces. Alexander's mother had always told him the necklace was a family heirloom. But Amelia's necklace was the complete pendant. Alexander looked at Amelia. You're my sister. Amelia stared at him in disbelief. No. I think you are. Tears filled her eyes. My mother would have told me. Maybe she was trying to protect you. From what? Alexander didn't answer. Because there was one question neither of them could explain. Why had Eleanor disappeared? And why had she hidden Amelia from the Blackwood family? But before we reveal the person who may have been responsible for Eleanor's disappearance, take a moment to subscribe to Billionaire Empire Folktales. If you love billionaire romance, family secrets, shocking twists, and emotional stories like this, subscribe now. Because what Alexander discovered next changed everything. Alexander and Amelia searched through every box their mothers had left behind. Then Amelia remembered something. There was one more letter. Where? My mother's old apartment. They rushed there. Inside a locked drawer, Amelia found an envelope. Her name was written on the front. She opened it. Inside was a letter from Eleanor. Alexander read it over her shoulder. The letter said, My dearest daughter. If you are reading this, then I am no longer able to protect you. I never abandoned Alexander. I was forced to leave. Your father's business partner discovered that I planned to expose what he had done. He threatened to hurt both of my children. So I disappeared. I took you with me. Alexander stayed behind because I believed he would be safer with his father. I have spent years trying to find a way back. But I could never risk your lives. There is only one person you must never trust. Victor Blackwood. Alexander stopped reading. Victor Blackwood. His father. Alexander couldn't accept it. His father had told him his mother abandoned them. His father had raised him. His father had built the empire. Could he really have been lying all these years? Alexander confronted him that night. Where is mother? Victor looked at his son. What are you talking about? Eleanor. Victor's face changed. Alexander placed the necklace on the table. Silence filled the room. Then Victor whispered. Where did you get that? Alexander stared at him. From my sister. Victor's eyes widened. My daughter. Alexander nodded. Amelia. Victor sat down. For the first time, Alexander saw fear in his father's eyes. You were told she was dead, Victor whispered. Alexander froze. Who told you? Victor looked away. I thought it was over. What did you do? Victor remained silent. Alexander slammed his hand against the table. What did you do to my mother? Victor finally spoke. I didn't kill her. Alexander's voice shook. Then where is she? Victor looked at him. She disappeared because I gave her no choice. Victor confessed everything. Years earlier, he had been involved in a massive financial scandal. Eleanor discovered the truth. She threatened to expose him. Victor's business partner threatened Eleanor. Instead of protecting her, Victor chose the empire. Eleanor fled with Amelia. But she secretly kept contact with someone she trusted. A private investigator. That investigator had spent years searching for Eleanor. And 3 weeks earlier, he had finally found her. Alive. Living quietly in Scotland. Alexander couldn't believe it. He and Amelia immediately traveled there. When the door opened, Alexander saw an older woman standing before him. Green eyes. Blonde hair. And the same small scar above her eyebrow. Alexander couldn't move. Eleanor covered her mouth. Alexander. He nodded. It's me. She began crying. He stepped forward. For 20 years, he had imagined what he would say if he ever saw his mother again. He had imagined anger. Questions. Accusations. But when he finally stood in front of her, he said only, "Why did you leave me?" Eleanor pulled him into her arms. "I never left you." And then Amelia stepped forward. Eleanor looked at her daughter. "My little girl." The three of them embraced. For the first time in decades, the family was together again. Alexander returned to London with a different view of his empire. He had spent his entire life believing success meant owning more. More companies. More houses. More money. More power. But now he understood. None of it mattered if he had no one to share it with. He repaired his relationship with Amelia. He helped her finish university. And he established a foundation in his mother's name to help women and families escaping dangerous situations. But there was another surprise waiting for him. A few months after everything changed, Alexander returned to the same restaurant where he had first met Amelia's story. And there was Amelia's best friend, Sophie. She had been working there that evening. Alexander had noticed her many times before. But unlike everyone else, Sophie had never treated him like a billionaire. She treated him like a man. And slowly, something unexpected happened. Alexander fell in love. Not because Sophie wanted his money. Not because she was impressed by his empire. But because she saw the broken man behind the billionaire. One evening, Alexander took her back to the restaurant where his life had changed. He reached into his pocket. Sophie smiled. "What are you doing?" Alexander took out a small box. Inside was a silver necklace. Not his mother's necklace. A new one. With a tiny blue stone. He said, "I spent my whole life searching for what I had lost." He looked into her eyes. Then I realized I had finally found what I was looking for. Sophie began to cry. Alexander. He smiled. Will you build a life with me? She said yes. Years later, Alexander's empire was bigger than ever. But he was no longer the cold billionaire newspapers once described. His mother was finally part of his life again. Amelia had built a successful career of her own. And Alexander had discovered something money could never buy. Family. Forgiveness. And love. All because one day, a waitress walked up to his table wearing a necklace. A necklace that had been hiding a 20-year-old secret. Sometimes, the smallest things can change an entire life. And sometimes, the person you think is a stranger is actually the missing piece of your story. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Billionaire Empire Folktales and turn on the notification bell. And tell me in the comments. If you were Alexander, would you forgive Victor after discovering the truth, or would you never speak to him again? Subscribe for more billionaire romance stories, shocking secrets, unexpected love, and emotional twists. Until the next story. Remember, money can build an empire, but love and family give it meaning.